Hello, and welcome back to Arcurus Plays Arma 3 Laws of War DLC. So, when last we left off, we'd done the Peacekeeper mission.
Okay, road's safe now. Bring the van on up.
Will do. Also, Mac, the NATO guys, they've kicked in all the doors. You're free to search inside the buildings now.
Got it. At least I can get out of the fucking rain. I'll come find you in a bit.
Have fun reminiscing.
Just set a waypoint there. So when last we'd left off with the mission The Peacekeeper, which was about a character we had played in the prologue and who died shortly thereafter. We'll explore the town a little bit more. Find the rest of these darn mines. Ooh, that is a good placement right there. There's tripwire in there. If I can get a little bit closer, you can see it right there. Subtle. Really subtle things.
The mechanic you've been telling me about, he and his brother, they'd always lived there.
In the town, you mean? Yeah, as far as I know. The family business, the garage, it kind of kept them rooted.
Go-kart.
The church, where the mines are, it's sealed off now.
By IDAP.
No, NATO. They lost some guys there in the firefight. One of their EODs is helping clear the place. But, he's not exactly moving quickly.
Yeah, EOD's job is not to move quickly. I've detected another mine. Looks like it's inside that building. Not in this one, though. You have to go around because we can't go through there because there's a mine there. Right there. Yeah, another tripwire, and there's the mine it's connected to. So you come through, kick that tripwire, it basically pulls a pin on the mine and it goes off. Alright. We'll cut through here on our way to the next one. Being careful to avoid all the explosives.
Whole families, you know?
What's that, Nathan?
Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Old habit. Just this whole mess.
The war.
Everything. I focus on my work, get the job done, but now and again, it's hard not to think what happened to the folks here.
I mean, oftentimes, like, it's always the, civilian populace of an area where a conflict happens. Like, they're the real sufferers in a war. I'm not discounting, what soldiers go through on both sides. But I can at least say, like, when I went to war, I signed up. I knew that was something that could happen. I wanted to do my part. So I was there with intent, but most civilians, where these conflicts happen, they're not there with intent. It's a thing that happens to them, and not something that they, are really active participants in.
How had things deteriorated so quickly? I mean, Altis is not exactly third world, yet food became scarce.
It's the little things. A local delivery stops, trawler is damaged, farmland gets mined. It's an almost imperceptible but fragile network. So when war comes, things just fall apart.
No, I kind of see how that really happens. Throughout the pandemic, I worked as a retail worker for a large retail chain, and it wasn't the best job in the world, but from there I could actually really see how logistics chains work, and that at every level of a logistics chain, if any level of that fails, then the logistics chain fails, and a lot of places don't actually have the like the local infrastructure or basically supplies built up. I mean, at least the retail chain that I worked in, like, our produce was a daily thing. If we didn't get a daily produce delivery, we were going to be out of fresh produce. Meat is the same way. And then groceries, like dry groceries, frozen, dairy, that stuff is a week. So if supply chains break down for a week, then, the retail I worked at, which was a large one that operates all over the United States and internationally, that retailer would have had nothing. And the simplest thing to break that chain is, well, none of the freight drivers show up to work.
Our camp in the town, I still remember it clear as day.
Were there many of you?
From IDAP? No, not really. 4, maybe. Sometimes a couple more, depending on what we had going on. It was mainly logistics, but we did have a doctor and an ambulance.
And going back to, like, how that ties in with conflict, like, and supply chains breaking down, what really ties that in is, in a conflict zone, the military is going to take control of whatever is there. So, he mentioned mining a field. It could be, less overt than that, but it could be that, like, hey, this field would make for a really good field of fire, so they basically, cut or burn down all the crops to clear that firing, to clear those firing arcs. A military will decide, oh, we're going to put our base here. That building's too close to it, so let's bulldoze it. That hits particularly close to me because that's what we did. I was with an engineer company in Iraq, and we were building checkpoints, and there was a building too close to the checkpoint. So we told the guy living there, I believe it was his business, to leave, and then we bulldozed it. because the safety of the troops, meant more than that, and it was a sacrifice that was forced to be made. It's actually something that, like, I'm ashamed that we did, because we basically ruined that guy's life. So, like, sometimes that shame that soldiers can feel afterwards, even myself, sometimes that comes from, things that aren't overtly violent acts against other people, but you can still ruin other people's lives just by, following orders. We've been here. Or am I in the wrong building? I am in completely the wrong place. I was kind of like lost in the reminiscing there. Which is kind of like what these interior episodes are. Like, it's kind of therapeutic for me to talk about some of this stuff, and that some of this stuff is, still important to me. And part of the reason why I love this particular DLC so much is, it brings that, it's basically a company, it's that anti-war message that they have, like...
I got a UXO here, dug right into the wall.
Shit. You'll need the toolkit for that job. I'll get on the horn to dispatch, see what's taking them so long.
I'll come back later.
Apparently what I'm looking for is, like, right here. Oh, it's up there. Until I get that UXO out, I'm not going to be able to do anything about it, but, this, like, set of reminiscing is... Oh, it's right here. It just shows that to a lot of other people, this stuff is important as well. To show, like, the effects of the local people on war. It's a heavy subject.
So, Nathan, may I ask, when you first came to Oreokastro, what were you doing there?
IDAP asked me to give some talks on landmines.
Talks? Who with?
Anyone who'd listen, really. It was all about raising awareness.
You know what? And what Nathan said right there, that's a big part of what, like, this whole DLC here, that's a big part of what it's all about. Is raising awareness for some of this stuff. Be it landmines or the dangers of landmines, UXOs, all that sort of thing.
Going back to what I said about the people here, their support for the guerrillas, sometimes it was a lot more than food and water.
What, guns?
Yeah, even after the government troops arrived, garrisoned their mayor's house, folks were still doing all they could for the cause.
As folks will do when they see a military force, an occupying force, not a liberating one. It's a really hard lesson that I think that the U.S. needs to learn, especially as we continue to meddle in global politics for the benefit of our nation and that of our allies. Is that a lot of places don't have the same outlooks and values. The same things aren't as important as, in some places as they are here. For instance, one might have noticed that the, democratic governments that we set up in Iraq and Afghanistan after we took down the original regimes, is that after it seemed like we were the only ones propping these democracies up, and I believe that there's a, regional cultural reason for that. In a lot of my own experiences with the people out in northern Iraq, both the Muslim population of the area, as well as the Kurdish population, they were focused on their small, like their small community groups. And, most people within those communities, they didn't really care much for what was going on in the wider world around them. So, as long as they were able to live their lives as they had been, they basically did not care about who the central authority of the country was. So so the sense that I got from them was that their loyalty was not towards country, but towards local community. And therefore, it didn't matter if ISIS was in charge, if Saddam was in charge. I mean, Saddam being in charge mattered a lot to the Kurds because of the way he actively persecuted them. But, if there was an American government in charge, they didn't care because it did not affect them on the community level. Because their focus isn't at that big national level. So I kind of envy that they don't experience nationalism to the same degree that it is pushed in, say, the United States.
My understanding of NATO's actions, particularly against the guerrillas, it's patchy. Maybe you could help fill the gaps?
Sure. Well, aside from the odd direct engagement, it was mostly aerial support, drone strikes. Of course, that all came from the airbase, the one on Stratis.
I see. Not Altis.
No. Even before they were forced to leave, their presence on the mainland didn't stack up to much. Morning. You been in?
You kidding me? I ain't going in there, man. That shit's all yours.
That is a proper attitude when it comes to landmines. I ain't going in there.
Where are you now?
Who, me? I'm exploring.
I can hear an echo.
Yeah, I'm in what used to be the mayor's place, actually. At least it was before the government forces took it over.
Oh yeah, here's the bit.
Tell me more about Staff Sergeant Adams. You met him on a previous deployment. That must have been in Generous, right?
No, actually, this was after I'd left the military. Previous deployment with IDAP, Pakistan. It must have been, God, 15 years ago? I think. Feels like another lifetime.
Alright, so this board is actually pretty interesting, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at it and kind of go over some of this stuff. So here's the training team: Corporal Milton, Staff Sergeant Adams, Private Nelson. Terminal learning objective: identify what is legal and what is illegal in armed conflict, because there are established rules. I mean, most people know these as the Geneva Convention, but the Geneva Convention covers a lot of like that higher stuff. There's a lot of like other treaties and stuff that govern all of the other rules, but there's a big one there: respect civilian property. Let's see. And there's some good advice. War is a harsher teacher. That's why military forces, at least well-trained, highly trained, or forces that train a lot. That's why that makes a huge difference when it comes to actual conflict. Because when you train, you're learning all of your lessons in training. So you're learning you're paying for your lessons in sweat and tears. But if you wait for a war to start trying to learn those lessons, you're going to be paying for those in blood. So, basic knowledge, core structure. I guess there's not a whole lot else here, but there's just a lot that actually goes into the laws of war. I don't even know all of them, but I know quite a bit of the basics. Let's zoom out a little bit. Doesn't look like there's any more, so we're gonna head on upstairs. And I am going to see you guys next time on the next episode. So, thank you for watching. This is Arcturus, signing off.